Hey guys, it's David from Gigi's Fabric Shop, home to Juki and Junkies. And in today's video, we're going to be showing you how to set up the Juki 350 Miyabi long arm sewing machine. And this is going to be multiple parts because there's multiple parts setting up this machine. In this video, we're just going to be going over how to set up the machine on a standard 5-foot frame. If you have a 7-foot, 10-foot, or 12-foot, you can use this video for reference, but just know we're not going to show you how to actually add that extra extension. In the manual, it will show you those little extra steps, so if you just need somebody to kind of help push you along the way on the setup, this video will be great for you. Or you can watch this video, and we'll be releasing an extra video here soon going over how to add that extension. Plus, we're going to also be releasing a extra video where we show you how to add the software. So if you didn't quite yet get the software, this will be perfect for you because we don't show you how to set up the software in this video. The QCT Pro and the QCT will be demonstrated in a following video here soon. So hit that subscribe button, turn on that little ring bell so you're notified when our videos are posted. Let's get started on setting up this machine. The first step is collecting the proper tools for this video. I'm going to be using a razor blade for cutting open the boxes. I'm going to have a Phillips head drill for speeding up the process and drilling in those Phillips head screws. Just makes it a little bit quicker. And then I'm also going to be using my own set of wrenches just in case. They're a little bit more comfortable than the ones that come with the box, but they also do give you pretty much all the tools you need. So you can use those. It's just, if you have your own, it's going to be a little bit more comfortable and a little bit faster. So I also made this cool little roll-up pouch. And if you haven't watched that video, check it out. We'll put it in the description where you can learn how to make a wrench roll-up pouch. Super cool. Now let's go ahead and start opening up the boxes and showing you how to start setting up the machine. So there is 3 boxes from the Grace Company. They are the company that makes this frame for Juki. So you'll see there's going to be box 3 of 3, box 2 of 3, and box 1 of 3. So we're just going to go ahead and open up box 1 of 3, 2 of 3, and 3 of 3, and kind of just open them up on the floor so we can kind of see everything nicely and laid out. So this box just has a whole bunch of little staples holding it together. So you're actually not even going to use your razor blade, or you can use your razor blade and just cut one side. So since this is going to be later on in the video, this is going to be what's going to be holding up my leader cloth. I don't really need this quite yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that box to the side. That's in box 1 of 3. Then also, if you have a pair of little snips, those are even easier to open up these zip ties. Better than a razor blade, actually. So I'm just going to be removing this cardboard around the frame. This is just protective gear when shipping. This is going to be my hand crank for my leader cloth and for my quilt when I'm rolling it up on the rails. All right, perfect. So now that I've got both frame pieces out of the box, make sure before you throw away any of the boxes, you thoroughly inspect that there's no extra accessories. So this is box 1 of 3. And I pretty much showed you everything that came out of this box. And these are the brackets that are going to be holding together the side frame pieces. So you can just kind of cut these little saran wrap off and put these with that piece over there. So what we have here is everything that came with box 1 of 3. So we're going to have our 2 side rails. This is what's going to be pretty much the support to everything on the long arm frame. So these are going to be the sides. These are the brackets that hold this and the flatbed piece together. Then we have our hand crank. We have these little clamps that are going to be clamping to the leader cloths to keep it tight. We have this little plastic tubing for putting the leader cloths on. We have this little hand piece that helps roll this into place. And then we have a bag of some hardware, some zip ties, and all the little Allen keys and wrenches and stuff like that we're going to be using. So this is box 1 of 3, everything you should see in box 1 of 3. Up next we have box 2 of 3. This is going to be the long guy with pretty much the rest of the frame. So we're going to go ahead and tilt this on its side here. And it's similar to the other one. It's got a whole bunch of staples in it. So you just want to kind of pull those staples back just like that. Okay, so now that we got all the staples broken loose, this should just pull right up like this. And you can take all this packing supplies and throw it to the side. And here is part of the frame And it's nice because it's already got the rails for the machine to roll on. It's got the plastic in there. And it's also even got this little plastic bed already done, so you don't have to do all that. So this is just the 5 foot we're setting up here. So if you have like a 10 foot, you'll have 2 sections of these. If you have a 7 foot, you'll have this and a 2 foot section. And that'll be in a separate box since, you know, the standard is just as this, you know, box 203 will just have this. And then if you get the bigger frames and all that, it'll be a separate box with the extra pieces that go together. I'm just gonna go ahead and stand this up against the wall. Put these rails over here. I'm just gonna take off all these plastic sleeves. And it's probably not a good idea to stack them up like this because one of them is gonna roll and they're all gonna fall down, but you know how guys are. They'll just do it their way and then regret it. I'm just gonna stand these up just because I'm saving some space in my area right now. So this is everything that'll be in box 2 of 3. And remember, we are setting up a 5 foot frame. So if you have a 7 foot, 10 foot, or a 12 foot, you will also be getting another one of these little sections here, and you'll be bolting that to this one to make it even longer. But since this video is just a 5 foot, this is all we have, this little section here. And we'll make a part 2. We'll put an info card in the top right corner. If you don't see it, it hasn't been made yet, where we go over how to put together the 7 foot and 10 foot. Okay, so now we're setting up box 3 of 3. This box is gonna house pretty much everything to finish setting up this frame. Let's go ahead and open it up. There's some tape right here. Boom. And I'm gonna go ahead and open up everything in box 3 of 3, even though I'm really not gonna be using this right now. So this is gonna be the box that has my stitch encoder, my LCD screen, looks like a laser light option here, my HDMI cord, some extra bolts and screws for mounting all this. This is my spacers, my rubber spacers, anti-vibration spacers pretty much. And then we got our front handlebar, which I'm gonna actually put these boxes together again. And then of course we have our Juki quilting frame instructions. So this is gonna be very handy. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that right there. And then this is gonna be our stitch module user instructions. This is gonna tell you how to set up your electronics and the screen and the handlebars and all that good stuff. That'll be later on. I'm gonna go ahead and throw that in that box. And then of course, this is the carriage that your machine will be rolling back and forth on the frame and giving you that super buttery smooth experience. And then there is one more box right here on the bottom. And this is gonna be the mounting plate for the machine to go onto the carriage. Make sure there's nothing else. And we're clear. So in box 3 of 3, you're gonna get your front handlebars, your LCD screen, all the mounting for your LCD screen, the stitch module, a few of the electronic components. You're gonna get the stitch module manual, the stitch regular user manual pretty much. And then you're gonna get your frame instructions, your carriage, and your mounting plate for the carriage. This is what the machine mounts to. So we're gonna go ahead and put this all to the side since this is gonna be later on in the video. We're gonna go ahead and get this frame instructions ready to go because we're about to tap into setting up this whole entire frame. And of course, the final 2 boxes is gonna be the machine head and this top box here, which is gonna be the power cable. So we're gonna actually leave the machine unopened since we really don't need to open it yet. And we're just gonna put this to the side. Okay, so the first step before we start putting the frame completely together is setting up the height of the frame so that way you don't put it all together and go, crap, we need to raise this thing up higher or lower. So on the first page of your manual, page 5 is actually the page number. It's gonna show you a little height of fabric chart. Pretty much there's 2 bolts on the legs right here, and it tells you what hole that they should be going through for a certain height. So it should be going through the 4th hole on this leg if you are between 5'4" and 5'8". So we're gonna go ahead and set it up on that 4th hole. So what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be using my 5mm Allen key, putting it on this side of this bolt, and then using my 13mm wrench and turning that wrench while I'm holding that Allen key, holding that bolt still from moving. And I'm just gonna go ahead and remove the washer and the nut and then the bolt from the back side and do the same over here. And if it's hard to remove the bolt, you just kind of have to lift up on this leg to release some stress or release some weight off of that bolt. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pull this up just like so, and you're now gonna see the number of holes that we're talking about here. So what I like to do is I can see that I'm on hole number 1. I'm just gonna count 1, 2. So I'm going to go pull it up slowly. 2, 3. And once I see that 4th hole, stop it right there. Throw my bolt through there, and I know I'm set up according to the chart for a person that is 5'4" to 5'8". If you're taller than that, then you should go to the 5th hole, and if you're even taller than that, you should go to the 6th hole. It doesn't really specify what the 5th hole height range is, but you can only imagine it's probably going to be anywhere from 5'8" to 6 foot. And then this back hole, if you have that at 4 holes, this back hole should be pretty much defaulted to the hole you have to go through, so you don't have to count anything on this one. And then, of course, make sure you're throwing that washer on and then throwing the nut on. So once you get the nut on there, you're going to go ahead and tighten it down, and you're going to repeat this process for the second leg set. And it's a lock nut, so you don't have to worry about it coming loose over time. Just go ahead and tighten it down. Once you have the first legs done, go ahead and repeat this process on the second set of legs. One quick step that I would like to highlight is I would go ahead and double check that if there's only 1.5 holes exposed, that both legs are showing 1.5 holes. So you'll see right here there's 1.5 holes showing, and right here there's 1.5 holes showing, because the last thing you want to do is maybe you miscounted and then you put both sides and your frame's cockeyed. So make sure both of those are the same height, and let's move on to the next step. Okay, so now we're going to be grabbing these brackets along with our M8 16mm screws. There should be a pack of these in the first box that we opened up, and you're going to grab your M5 Allen key. And you're just going to put this bracket right here and put in one bolt right here. And you can just kind of finger tighten this down, making sure that this little metal flat piece is on the outside of this rail. And then another thing I want you to highlight is up here, you'll notice that we're setting up the left side of the frame. You'll see that this metal bracket right here, this will be where some of those cords go through for the clamps that hold down your leader cloth. This bracket should be on the left side. So this bracket should be on the inside, this bracket should be on the outside. You'll see that there's this flat piece is over here. And then same thing with this next bracket. We're going to go ahead and do the same exact thing. We're going to put this bracket right there, put those two M8 bolts right there, making sure that this bracket is facing the outside. So we're just going to go ahead and tighten these bolts down on both sides. This bracket here facing this direction. Now we're just going to go ahead and mount this bracket right here facing the same direction. And you're going to go ahead and repeat this process on leg 2 as well. So now we have all 4 of those brackets on the actual legs holding on, and now we can actually put our tabletop piece together. Okay, so now that we've got the brackets on both of the leg frames, we're going to be putting this tabletop on. And since this is a 5 foot, it's going to be very easy. If you have the 7 foot, 10 foot, or the 12 foot, there is going to be multiple pieces like this that you're going to have to put together, and then you're going to have to take off these little metal rails and then put one continuous rail and like kind of put them together. So of course we're going to have a part 2 to all that, but this is just a standard 5 foot, which is really nice and easy to set up. So we're going to go ahead and actually just have 2 people holding up both legs with those brackets facing to each other, and this little 5 foot section tabletop piece will just slide right in just like that. And then you're going to put M8 bolts through those brackets we just mounted onto the legs. There should be 4 on each side, 2 on the front, 2 on the back, 2 on the front, 2 on the back. So we're just going to go ahead and put those bolts in, and then the 2 people can walk away. They don't have to hold the side frames up any longer, because it should pretty much support itself now. So we are now on page 9 of the manual, and as you can see on 6, 7, and 8, those are pretty much all the instructions if you had the 10-foot frame. Pretty much like I've said, we'll do another part to that once we get a larger frame. We're kind of limited on our frame space here since we're in a shop. So one day we'll get a larger frame, we'll make that second part. Pretty much you're just going to be adding another leg here and then another one of these sections and then that. But you have to take off these rails, put them together, tighten them down together, then put them back down. So 6, 7, and 8 page, we'll go over that if we don't have that video done already. Since ours is a 5 foot, we have the luxury of not having to do that. Our frame rails are 5 foot already, so we can literally just throw these suckers on whenever we're ready. Next step is going to be actually opening up the machine box already and putting that on the machine base and then putting that all together, and then we can start putting the stitch module and coders and all that stuff, and we're almost done. So here we go. So now we are opening up that machine box. Just gonna go ahead and break all this loose. There's gonna be some staples here. So what I like to do is push down like that and then just rip it right open. Just like so. Remove this top styrofoam piece here. And if there's any box you're gonna keep out of all the boxes we have looked at, this would be the box to keep. This is the machine head box, and I would keep the styrofoam and the cardboard just in case you ever had to ship this machine in for a service or any sort of fixes or repairs or warranty issues. You would have this to be able to ship it. So I would store it for, honestly, forever, because even if you've had it for 20 years and you decide you want to send it all the way to Florida to have us look at it and do a complete tune-up, it'd be nice to have the box. We're going to go ahead and open up this little box, which you'll see you have your thread stand and bobbins and, you know, just machine accessories. We're going to go ahead and put that over here to the side. And now we're going to take the machine out of the box. I would highly recommend having 2 people to help you out with this because it is a heavy machine, but you're pretty much going to be grabbing your hand right underneath the throat space here. Just going to pick up on it like that, kick that box out of the way, and you're just going to walk off with your long arm because it's yours. Now that we have our machine laying on its side, we're going to make sure the main sub-tension knob is facing up. We don't want to be pushing any weight down on any of those components there. And we're going to locate our rubber dampeners. So there should be 4 of these. They're going to go in each one of these holes here. You can either remove these plates and attach these doing it that way, or you can grab some long tweezers like this, hold that M6 jam nut on the back side here just like so, and then stick the rubber dampener through like that, and that way you can actually hold that nut there, and then you can go ahead and just hand crank that down with your hand, making sure it's nice and tight. So that's all good to go. And now we're going to go ahead and repeat that process for this hole and these 2 over here. Okay, so now that we've got the rubber dampeners on, we're going to be grabbing this mounting plate, this big old shiny plate with these rollers here. And you're going to want to make sure this extra length of metal here, this little metal plate, is going to be facing the front of the machine, not the back. So you're just going to go ahead and put that over the rubber dampener bolts, just like so. And then you're going to do a regular washer, the M6 jam washer, the M6 lock washer, just like that. And then you're going to do the M6 jam nut, is what they call it on page 10. And you're just going to go ahead and repeat this process on all 4 of these bolts. And make sure these are nice and snug. You don't need to be super, super tight. It just needs to be nice and snug so you know that that lock washer is engaged and it's not going to come loose. So now that we have that mounting plate on the bottom of the machine, let's go ahead and get to the next step. The next step will be on page 11. And that's pretty much going to be mounting up the stitch module, the handlebars, the stitch encoder, and all of those cables. So now we're going to go ahead and put our carriage onto the machine frame. And once you get that carriage on there, just roll it around, make sure that it feels like it is, you know, smooth and that all 4 wheels are coming in contact with these rails. Sometimes one of the wheels won't really come in contact, and that's okay. Like you can see here, this wheel's not spinning perfectly. Once you put that machine on there and you put some weight, they should start spinning. So you can actually push down with your hands and make sure they're all 4 spinning. And if they're not spinning properly, then you can actually make some quick little adjustments. There's some little Allen keys, little bolts right here. You can loosen these up and just leave them a little loose, push down with some weight and roll this thing back and forth. Like I said, they're not always gonna be all 4 spinning, but for the most part they will be, and then you can tighten that back down. Another adjustment you can do is, I'm sure you know this already, if you set up the 7-foot or the 10-foot frame, that these rails can also be adjusted. So you can get underneath that frame, there's little holes in the frame, and you can adjust these rails here. So you could break all those loose. I like to do all of them just a little bit loose, not super loose. And then I will also do that little carriage test, making sure all those wheels are nice and in contact with this rail. Then I'll tighten them all back down. So now that I've got all that done and it's looking pretty good, we can actually put the machine on this carriage. All right, so now that we've got the machine here, go ahead and put that down on top of that carriage, just like so. And it should roll forward and backwards and side to side, nice and smooth like butter. And now is another good time to look at those wheels, making sure they're all spinning. And I would highly suggest you do not take your hand off of this machine until you put the frame rails in the table, because you don't want the machine to fall off the table. And at this point, it could roll forward and technically fling off the table if you weren't careful. So make sure that you have somebody constantly holding it, or you go ahead and put those rails in. Okay, just for safety purposes, I'm gonna actually go ahead and put one of these little rails up here. They should just snap into place. And sometimes when you're putting these rails into place, it can be a little bit of a task to get them to fit in there. So you might have to push the top a little bit over and then push them in. And if it's super, super tight, you could always go back down to those 4 brackets and loosen them up and kind of tilt the legs and making sure that that frame is perfectly straight up and down. It's not like tighten down like this or tighten down like that. Okay, so the next step is I'm gonna go ahead and open up all my stitch regulator components and lay them all out right here. And you could do this step without the machine being on the frame, but it's just easier because I don't have much space in this area right now. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off this little side cover that covers up. The next thing I'm gonna do is put my handlebar right here on top. And on this handlebar, you'll see there's like a little slot right there. It's important when you're running this that it goes through that little slot so you don't pinch that wire. So we're gonna go ahead and put that on there. Make sure that it's coming out of that little slot. And you're gonna grab your M6 10mm. There should be 3 of these little bolts, and these are gonna be on the top of this handlebar. And we're gonna be using the M430 Allen key with the M6 bolts. So we're just gonna go ahead and put all 3 of these here. And again, make sure this wire here is coming out of this little slot so you don't pinch it, because that would not be good to pinch your wire and then your machine doesn't work properly. And also make sure when you install these screws, that they don't strip out the top. So you're gonna wanna make sure they go in. And they might be a little tough. Sometimes there's some paint in those threads, so it's a little bit tougher to get them to go through, but as long as they go down straight, you should be good to go. So now that I've got these 3 bolts up here, we're gonna go ahead and snug them down. You don't need to make them super, super tight, just need to be nice and snug. And this wire here is just you're gonna take off the saran wrap, and this is all on page 11 and 12. And this will just run down the side of the machine and connect into this little spot right there. And then there's gonna be a screw that goes into this hole right here, which is gonna hold that in place and ensure that it never comes out. And that's just gonna be the small little M4 bolts. Here is the M4 bolt that we're gonna be using. You're gonna go ahead and put that in right there. And then you're going to grab there should be a small little zip tie, and that'll hold this wire. So you're just gonna put that zip tie right through there, like so. Push it up, just like that. And then you're gonna go ahead and tighten it down and use a pair of snips to cut this zip tie. You don't want to accidentally cut that wire. So now you're going to put this cover back on. There's little slots in this cover for the wires to come through on both sides. So make sure those wires are in there, and then you're going to go ahead and tighten down that cover. So now we have this little cover on that's going to protect that wire from getting hit or tangled up on any materials. We can go ahead and mount our LCD screen. We're gonna take our micro HDMI and our regular HDMI. So now you're just gonna plug in the standard HDMI there. You're gonna run this cord through the back side of this screen, just like so. Clicking this screen into place and then running this cord around and plugging in the micro HDMI into the bottom of the screen right there. And then you can just tilt it down. Now we're installing the stitch module. You're going to want to make sure these little plugs line up with the machine plugs. Just go ahead and push that on. And then you're going to grab your small M3 bolt, put it through that little hole, and go ahead and tighten that down so that way the stitch module doesn't come loose. So once you have that mounted, you can go ahead and plug this bad boy in and go ahead and tighten down these little bolts so it holds your cable in place. Now you're going to grab your thread guide screw. It's just in this clear plastic bag with no label. You're going to put this thread guide rod through the thread stand, put this screw on the bottom, and then just hold it with your hand and tighten down the rod. It doesn't need to be super, super tight. You can just hold it with your finger and rotate this rod until it is snug. Now you're going to put this little felt pad onto here. Then you're gonna go ahead and open up your thread guide. Go ahead and throw this onto your thread guide rod, just like so. And believe it or not, this is a thread guide for a serger. So really when you're threading in the manual, it shows you to go through like the green and the red, but technically you could actually remove this back wire and just go through one of the sections. It wouldn't make any difference. Just a little fun fact. So now we're gonna go ahead and throw this onto the machine itself here. There's gonna be 2 Phillips head screws that screw into the side here, and you should be good. You're gonna look through this little hole here and line up that Phillips head screw with the screw on the machine. Tighten it down. Make sure to not over tighten it. If you over tighten it, you could break the plastic. And go ahead and do that again. Just like so. Now we have our thread stand on. Don't forget your anti-vibration cones. This is for using those larger spools so they don't vibrate. This little thread guide will go just in this hole right here, and you can just tap that down. You could actually use like a little rubber mallet and give it a nice couple taps so that way it doesn't wiggle around too much. So I'm actually just going to use my plastic flathead. Like that. Now it's nice and firm. So this is just like a little protective glass that covers your needle. So if there is ever a needle breakage, it doesn't fling up and hit you in the face. I am actually going to not mount this onto my machine. It kind of obstructs my view a little bit. So if you would like to mount this on, it's pretty simple. It's got this little bracket here, and it kind of just mounts up into here, this screw, and then this little plastic cover protects the needle from flinging off. And then this is the laser light option, which will just kind of mount onto here, and you can point that down so you kind of have a little bit of ease when you're free motion quilting. So I'll have Gigi show you guys this in action whenever she actually shows you how to use the machine. But I'm gonna put these 2 accessories to the side, along with my bobbins, my T-screw, my oil, and my needles that it came with. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that in a little separate drawer so I can finish the setup process. So the next step is going to be removing this little end here on my rail to install my hand crank. So you're just going to take your Allen key, loosen this bolt here, and then you're going to tap this with a hammer, pushing it down. So now that we got this piece out and the other bolt out, you're just going to go ahead and put this little piece back in there, push it down. Actually, you don't want to push it down super tight yet. Put it like that so it's not going to fall out. And then you're going to push it into this little spot here. And you're going to go ahead and install this rod up here. And remember, you might have to kind of pull the frame this way a little bit to get this to line up, and then push it together just like so. Then you're going to come back over here, and we're going to install this hand wheel. So you're going to need the hand wheel and then this little cap here that slides right in there. Then this is going to just line up with all those other lines there. Then you're going to put your washer and then your big bolt and just tighten that down. And this is the M10 bolt, I believe, and the M10 washer. So now once we get that there, now we're just going to go ahead and hand crank this down so it's nice and tight, and this will be going nowhere. So now we have a hand crank on our machine. Now you can rotate your rail with your hand wheel. So now that we have the hand wheel on, we're going to go ahead and put these rails on, and just going to go ahead and push those on. And sometimes it can be difficult to put those rails on. Just have some patience with it. You're going to have to look in here, make sure that groove lines up with the other one, and push together like that. Boom. Now we have all the rails up. We're ready to put our leader cloth onto our rails. Now that we have our rails mounted, we can go ahead and install our bungee clamps. So these little bungee clamps are just going to run the cord through here. Then you're just going to put this little tiny, I guess you could call it a clamp of some sort, adjustable clamp thing. Just put that there, and you can kind of set these to what you need them to be to hold that leader cloth nice and tight. So I'm just going to set these so they're like right there. And of course you could always snip those ends if you needed to, if you don't ever see yourself using that extra, but also if you get those bigger frames, then you might not want to snip those ends. So we're going to do 2 on each side. I'm just going to do the front and the back hole, and you could always make adjustments later on where you put these and how much slack there is. Okay, so the next step, now that we have the frame set up, we have the rails installed, is going to be leveling this tabletop bed to ensure that it's level. So you're going to want to level the Y and the X axis of that. What that means is I'm going to push my machine all the way over here, put a level here, and make sure the surface is level. And then you're going to also level this way. So you're going to lay a level right here, you're gonna make sure that's level. You can actually take your machine, move it to a certain spot, let go of it, and if it stays in its spot, then it's level, because the gravity, if it's unlevel, will pull the machine in a certain direction. So I'll put it in the middle of my frame, let go of it. Push it forward, let go of it. So if it rolls back, we're gonna actually raise up our back 2 feet. And what I mean by that is you're going to grab your wrench, which is your 13 millimeter wrench. Actually, it's a 17 millimeter, not a 13. And you're gonna put that right there, and you're gonna loosen that bolt like that. So loosen it up, and you can see as I loosen that bolt, my foot, or this little bolt is just a set bolt that holds that foot in place. So what you'll do is you'll loosen that little nut, you'll pick up on this foot, and then you'll just rotate the foot lefty to go up and righty to go down. So if you need the back section to go up, you would rotate this to the right, and then once you get it to the desired spot, then you would lock it in place with that nut. So you would just tighten that down. So that's what you're gonna wanna do to get this tabletop nice and level. Adjust all 4 of those little feet on the table, and then once it's all nice and level, you're good to go. And just like that, we're pretty much done setting up this frame and machine. We're gonna have a full video on installing the leader cloths because it's gonna be kind of customizable depending on what size you have. So we're gonna show you that in depth. We're gonna put that in the description of this video. Check out that video where we go over cutting your leader cloths and installing them onto your frame. The other video is eventually you might want to get the QCT Pro or the QCT software for your Longarm, and we're going to also shoot that video here soon where we show you how to install the software onto your Juki Miyabi 350. So if you get tired of free motion quilting and you're ready for that software, we're going to show you how to install it from scratch. And then of course we have tons of different videos on winding the bobbin, threading the machine, basic functions on this machine. So we'll also put those videos in the description. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and comment down below if you have any questions, or if you think I messed up on anything, comment it down below, or if you want to tell me a little secret to doing something even easier, comment that down below. We'll be responding to you guys very quickly. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Share it with any of your friends that bought this machine that need help installing it, and we'll see you next Sunday on our next video. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you soon.